Well, I want to bring in Washington Post senior political reporter Aaron Blake. He joins me now from Washington to talk about a bunch of things, but we're going to start right here. Aaron, starting with Iran. The State Department said yesterday that Iran was complying with the nuclear deal. It's good news. But then he came out and said that, Iran could be the next North Korea. So how do we square those two messages?
Well, it's a little difficult. I think the statement by Secretary Tillerson that came after that report was certainly intended to send a message that this certification does not mean that ripping up the Iran deal is off the table, does not mean that the Trump administration is going to press forward with it, but they've got to come to a decision rather quickly here. They gave themselves a 90-day window to review this deal. Coming in mid-May, Congress is going to have to decide whether to continue the relief of sanctions that's required underneath this deal. So I think that the Tillerson comments certainly are a signal of where Trump stands on this and whether he's going to live up to his previous promises to get rid of this deal. It doesn't sound like a done deal right now, but certainly those comments put that ball back into play.
So we've been hearing comments from Rex Tillerson. We've been hearing comments from the vice president and the president. As we look at how the administration is responding to these threats posed by Iran and North Korea, are we starting to see perhaps a Trump doctrine take shape?
I think a little bit. I think the biggest part of it right now is that there is going to be tough talk. They are going to take a very non-Obama stance towards demanding things from adversarial foreign powers. We certainly saw that with Vice President Pence's comments during his visit to the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea. Now we see it on Iran from Tillerson. We also saw it to some degree in Syria, where we launched strikes, of course, for the chemical weapons attacks. The problem with talking tough like that is sometimes you're going to be forced to back it up. And the Trump administration and Donald Trump himself have also put forward somewhat of a non-interventionist attitude towards things. They say that they don't want to get involved in conflicts in the Middle East, for instance. And so we're going to see how this plays out. But certainly they have been willing to talk much tougher than we saw from the last administration. That may be the defining characteristic of the Trump doctrine so far.
Yeah, they said they didn't want to get involved, but then we saw what happened in Syria. So things can evolve and change, as we have witnessed. I want to turn to some domestic policy issues now, beginning with health care. House Speaker Paul Ryan said yesterday during a trip to London that Republicans are putting the finishing touches on revived health care, a revived health care push. So let me know, what are you hearing? Because the lawmakers haven't returned to work yet.
Right. I think we've heard this story a number of times since the health care bill failed. Certainly talks are continuing, but I think we remain in a very difficult place here where in order to get the bill through the House, it basically needs to move to the right to appeal to these House Freedom Caucus members. And in the Senate, that's just a non-starter for a lot of these more moderate, more pragmatic Senate Republicans who don't want to have millions of people go off of their insurance, don't want to have to explain that to their constituents. So I think this is a very difficult needle to thread. I think there's a lot of happy talk, including as there was before this bill was going to come up for a vote, that it was going to pass. So far, they haven't been able to live up to those words.
Yeah. You also have been reporting, Aaron, on what's happening on the other side of the aisle. Specifically, you've been reporting on Bernie Sanders, and he's on a bit of a tour across the country. And you write that Bernie Sanders has embarked on a come together and fight back tour. That's how you phrased it, with the Democratic National Committee Chairman Tom Perez. But he's not really helping on the first part, the come together part. What do you mean by that?
Well, it's an uneasy situation because Sanders kind of split the Democratic Party in two when he ran in the primary. And I think he's shown that he's still doing that in many ways, especially at issue here are his comments about the special election candidate down in Georgia, Jon Ossoff, who nearly won that race outright a couple days ago. Sanders was asked about that, and he hasn't endorsed Ossoff, and he basically said that he didn't know whether the guy was a progressive or not. He didn't know if his economic policies were in line. So I think that at a time when Democrats want to come together, that's the purpose of this whole tour. To make those comments about a guy who the party has really united behind, really wants to make a statement in a tough district in a special election, I don't think that's helping Democrats at all come together.
Yeah, very interesting point. Aaron Blake of the Washington Post. Thank you so much, Aaron.
Thank you.